IoT isn't about the industry you're in or all those hype words we keep hearing. It's about the challenges you want to solve. But the hype around your challenges is real. IoT is all about understanding what your assets are doing and how you can get the most from them. How are your machines performing? Where is your equipment going? Is your inventory moving? Is that package being delivered? How much fuel is the delivery truck using? And is it taking the best route possible? Those are the insights and data you're looking for. In more advanced cases, you may want to address machine failures before they happen, or you might want to optimize the lifetime of your assets. You may even want to control your devices in near real time, performing remote actions straight away. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if your business is fleet management, healthcare, building automation, public transport, Industry 4.0, or anything else for that matter. What does matter is that IoT helps you solve your challenges, streamline your processes, and keep costs under control. The hype around those is real. If you'd like to learn more about how we can help you enable IoT for your business needs, please get in touch.
Hello everyone, it works, fantastic. Good to have you here. Welcome to IoT Talks. We have hosted this event for almost 20 times in Sweden and across Europe, but it's our first time in UK. So we hope to make it a success and that we can repeat it in the future. So you will hear today about Tele2 a little bit, as well, because not all of you, some of the companies you're working for don't know us enough, so we'll talk about it a little bit, but we'll also talk about the market trends, the technology, and we'll have a lot of good speakers and experts in different technologies coming with us today. If you think about a summary of us, we've started from scratch 11 years ago in UK. We are now 4 experts in IoT in UK and more than 1 million devices connected through our solutions. So we are established in UK since a while. So let's start a little bit with about Tele2. And we had that joke 11 years ago when we started coming in UK. People were saying, Tele who? So we kept that joke just to entertain a bit our customers when we meet them. But after 11 years, of course, we are a bit more known in the market, but I'll go quickly through that. Tele2 as a group, we are a leading telecom operator in the Nordics and in the Baltics. You can see a network in Sweden and the 3 Baltic countries. We have more than 7 million mobile users and more than 2.6 billion revenue as a telco operator. But 1 month ago happened something important for our future. We have a new major shareholder that's invested in Tele2, and the company name, you probably heard about it, is called Iliad Group, with the holding called NJJ, and they are the fastest growing telecom operator in Europe, owning many more footprint networks in Europe, and with a size which is probably 3 times the size that Tele2 is, 4 times, sorry, with 9 billion revenue. So that's always an important change we see as an opportunity. Now, continuing on Tele2, we are today present in 10 countries in Europe in terms of offices, plus 1 in Turkey as well that we opened recently. We have more than 11,000 customers in Europe and in US, but also in China and Middle East. So we have now been successful not only in Europe, but in other continents as well, and we will address South America from September onwards. We also have been growing from the beginning of our story, since 11 years. We've been growing more than 20% year on year, thanks to some of our customers that are here, so you will be able to exchange with some of our customers, but thanks to also our partners, suppliers, and so on. Yeah, important to note that our solutions are available in 185 countries and on 519 networks. I was talking with you previously. We always have solutions that roam on many, many networks in the world, not one network per country. So now, what do we sell? Because some people always ask me, but Cyril, you talk about Tele2, you talk about IoT market since 20 years, but at the end, sometimes we don't know what you're offering. So I have to come back to the basics sometime and say, what do we offer? And what do we offer is a global SIM solutions, whatever the form factor you need for your business, even some virtual SIMs we also sell. You have not anymore any physical SIM. It's a virtual profile that you can embed in your device, assets, products, whatever IoT needs you have. Then we offer all data, voice, SMS across all the standard cellular bearers from 2G to 5G, which are the standard one and VoLTE, but also for the one who don't know, some dedicated IoT networks that a few years ago were launched. It didn't exist before, which are called Narrowband IoT and LTE-M, which are 100% dedicated to IoT. So that's an important part, of course, the connectivity data. And then all this connectivity and SIMs is powered by the Cisco IoT Control Center, which is today the leading platform. We call it connectivity management platform. It's for our customers to manage the connectivity by themselves. And that's, I think Cisco is present today as well, if you want to exchange with them. At the end, security, we will come back to that, so I will not talk about it. Professional services, it's the way we support our customers on the day-to-day. But I would say, when people ask why have we been successful till now, we always mention that if you succeed to have satisfied employees and passionate employees by what they do, and if you have customers that are satisfied of the service you provide, the sky is the limit. You just achieve greatness. And I think it's what we've done, thanks to what we call, what is our DNA, the IoT love. And that is now starting to be, I see people smiling who know us since long. It has been the DNA from the beginning, and that's what has made us successful, because we have a special care with our customers. I will not go through all the logos here, but I wanted to show that some of you are here. We are serving all sectors, all industries. We are a pure horizontal player, and we are truly proud of being an horizontal player. We don't want to build solutions. We don't want to build vertical solutions. We don't want to build end-to-end solution. That is your business. What we provide is horizontal managed connectivity for any kind of businesses. Now, we don't talk anymore about Tele2. We come to the more interesting topic, which is the technology trends and the market requirements that are evolving and impacting the industry as of today. And we are telco experts, obviously, but we consider ourselves as the friendly experts, and we want to share what we are seeing happening in the market, and that's why we brought some experts and speakers to share even more with you about what's going on and what's impacting our industries. And obviously, with the global unrest now that we are seeing, the geopolitics that is quite tricky at the moment, and the rapid technology development that is happening around us, the security is becoming increasingly crucial for any businesses. There is no time to wait. If you look at cyber attacks, it's increasing, but it's increasing faster since these wars we have at the door of Europe. But the cyber attacks also happening on IoT devices. There are like 3, 4, 5 cases now where the cyber, how do you call it, the cyber attackers? No, I forgot my word in English, but have been happening on IoT. So knowing that you have today 3.2 billion devices IoT connected, if the hackers start attacking IoT, we should better be prepared. And that's why we are investing in security. Simon, an expert in that field, present here, will take you through more in depth around security. But us, as a telco, we are working on the end-to-end, as we call it, telco-grade security end-to-end. That's our responsibility to do that for our customers and for, of course, ourselves, but it's to protect our customers behind at the end. And we're also working on unlocking what we call restricted market. For the one who don't know what I mean, it means there are many countries in the world, probably 10 almost, that don't allow permanent roaming. So if you have an asset roaming in Turkey or in Brazil or in Canada or in China or in India, it is not allowed. So we need to find a technical setup that makes your solution compliant when you expand in other countries than Europe. In Europe, we don't have that problem, at least. And we have unlocked Turkey, and we are going to unlock Brazil, and we have unlocked Canada, and so on and so on. I will not go in details. So that's the first block of area where we are focusing today, our event, security. The second one is more generic, technology advancement. And obviously, who is not talking about AI now and AR? It was not unknown because we talked about AI, I remember 30 years ago, but there was not the computational power that we have now. So AI is now, I would not say disruptive, I would say hyper-disruptive. That's how we see it. And we have to embrace it. If not, we will be disrupted as businesses. So remember, the companies that have not followed the trend of internet or have not followed the trend on smartphone, they don't exist anymore. So with AI now on our door, with us, it's the time to act. And also augmented reality. And for that, for both technologies, AI and AR, we will have Sacha. Where is he? He's there. We will talk about it later. On our side, on the telco world, not only us, also the other telcos, we are focusing on helping our customers to manage the sunset that is going to happen on 2G, 3G in Europe. It happened in US already, but it's going to happen here. So we are here to help you to manage that transition. Of course, we are investing heavily in the 5G network because it's really the network of the future. And the networks are built to be able to manage this lot and data, powered by AI as well, by the way. So we are going to focus as well on that today. And the third one, but not the last one, as we used to say, is sustainability. Sustainability is a paramount. It's not a debate anymore. I would say it's a must. And we are seeing a lot of trends on sustainability. We could talk for hours, but the experts are here on the first line. But there is a clear shift towards renewable energy from all companies, from all sectors. This is clear and important. The corporate social responsibility is not a buzzword anymore. It's also happening everywhere. And I would go further. The investors now, at least for a listed company, from what I know, they also are asking about sustainability progress. I mean, it would be difficult now if you're a listed company and not investing in sustainability. And that's why Mary was here. Is going to manage a roundtable, a panel with some Swedish entrepreneurs, but also some Tele2 representative, a panel around sustainability, how sustainability can accelerate your business. Because sometimes we could think, sustainability, is it going to slow down or take me time or cost me? No, it can enable to grow your business even quicker. So that will be the debate. And I will end up sharing that we are proud. Sometimes you need to be proud with TechSverige. We are number 2 in the the sustainability list from Financial Times, and Mary is from Financial Times. So we were first last year. We are second, which is in Europe quite remarkable, knowing of the number of multinationals that you have in Europe. And it's a proof of the investment we've been doing in sustainability. And as our head of sustainability in Tele2 is not here today, Eric, unfortunately, we are not going to stop here. We are going to continue to invest in sustainability. So that's what I wanted to share. Before I end up, it's important to say that beyond the presentation, beyond the experts that are going to talk to you about these trends, the biggest value of that event is the networking. So it's important that after the event, you interact with your peers, you share challenges, benefits, knowledge, best practice between the different sectors, because IoT is common for is a lot of common practices for the different industries. That's also good that you enjoy the sunset, that you enjoy the view. We have a beautiful day, weather today. So I hope you will enjoy. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Cyril, and good evening. Oh, there's my clicker. Thank you very much. It wouldn't be good without this. So let me move it on to me. There we are. I thought they changed the slides for a minute then. So Cyril rang me a couple of months ago, actually, and said, I want somebody, an expert, and I want somebody who's going to be lively and funny. And unfortunately, that guy wasn't available, so here I am. But as you can see from my sort of quick resume on the screen there, I do have some history in security and across the fire and security sector. And of course the IoT sector, because I always think that IoT is a horizontal, it's not a vertical. It touches everything that we do, whether it's telehealth or electric cars, whatever it might be. There's this seam of IoT running through it. So let me just set some expectation for you all this evening. I saw the other people's presentations when I was going through the draft here, and they all look so much better than mine. So don't judge me, okay? I did my own. I don't have a big marketing team to do it, so I did it myself. But anyway, look, that's my first slide, and I'm not going to blah about this because you can see everybody knows the spectrum for IoT, and we know that it starts with really crappy SIMs at one end, and these really very reliant SIMs and risk-to-life SIMs at the other end. And we have always occupied this bit here, this risk to life. So that's what I know. And I have a message to deliver today. And my core message today is that we come from that sector. But that sector isn't shrinking, it's growing, and it's filling out the spectrum. So I'd like to think that I can bring our expertise to that. So there's another graph. We know it's going to be a big market. We don't need to look at this graph for very long, so I'm going to move it along. Now, what I'd like to do here is show you into my brain, because I like to simplify things. And that's my attempt at PowerPoint, by the way, because that's how I see things. I see lawnmowers and fridges and other things at one end of the spectrum, and then I see critical connectivity at the other, and risk to life, and things that are really important. Yes, it's important for you to know that your lawnmower has gone out of range. Yes, it's important that your fridge temperature has gone up by a degree. Really important. But there are more important things. And I, as I said before, see where I come from, which is critical connectivity. I've been in the alarm business for over 28 years, but I founded CSL back in 1996, that's 28 years ago. And it was founded on critical connectivity. And it's not that I was some sort of crusader for connectivity, because it was really expensive back in the day. And we always had this dual principle. And of course, we didn't use dual SIM cards, because SIM cards weren't very good in those days. So we used landline technology, so PSTN, IP, whatever it might be, and a SIM card. And we used them both because it was basically a law of probability, that the more chance we had from getting a signal from A to B, whatever we used was better than the singular. So that's where critical connectivity comes in. And like I say, I'm not the crusader. Our crusaders were the market and our customers, because our customers demanded that if an alarm went off, they needed blue light services. They needed emergency response. So we had to make our systems pretty good. They had to be good, because you couldn't press a panic button in a service station and not get a response. It wasn't a good look. So our customer demands really drove our businesses. And of course, outages were always a problem. They still are a problem. Every MNO has outages. We know that, whatever they might be. So the problem we found in the early days was the more that we polled a system or checked if it was alive, the more outages we actually got reported. Because if you keep asking something, are you alive, are you alive, are you alive, and you're asking it, in the security industry, we have to do that every 60 seconds. And you can imagine the ups and downs of networks, that's going to be very challenging. So the more you check, or the more you ask, the more failures you're going to get. And how do you solve this? Well, we didn't really want to become an MNO, so we had to find ways to make it better. And I suppose, again, my message today is that if you have existing infrastructure and you want to make it better, there is a path to do that. And whether that's doubling up, so using two separate diverse technologies, for example, like we did in the early days. So we partnered, we put best codes of practice, standards, we got ourselves together with the police and all the other stakeholders to get ourselves credibility. And it was all about trust. And that was our core word, trust, because people had to trust us with their lives, quite simply. We had to get our product quality up, our uptime reliability, the ease of installation, it had to be good, the skills to install it had to be good. So you had this whole ecosystem that had to exist to make this tiny little red box that signaled to the police or blue light services to work properly. So that's what we did back in the day. And I liken it to a thermostat, because the same result, you know, we're getting a message. We're delivering a message from A to B. But sometimes it has to be more important than the other message that might be using the same network. How do you do that? So in the fire and security, we needed better connectivity. You can see that screaming lady there. I just saw the image and thought it was funny, so I just popped it in there. It's just so dramatic, really, isn't it? But we came up with something called dual-com and dual communications, dual-com. I know, it's genius, isn't it? To get our first product off the ground all those years ago. So we started, and we started in 1996, but SIMs didn't really get affordable really before GPRS hit the streets, and that was sort of 2006. We used a very early GPRS system, which was called PACnet, which was provided by Vodafone and earlier Racal. And that was very early doors. It was a very good way of getting small amounts of data reliably from one place to the other. But then we came across this idea of World SIM, which was basically, we sold it as having 4 SIMs. Actually, is that orange in there? Let me just get rid of that there and pop in Tele2. So I know, it's cheesy as hell, isn't it? But had to do it. So World SIMs, that was back in 2009, and then we thought, okay, we need to get these SIMs working better. So we then brought out multi-slot SIM in 2016, which is basically just 2 SIMs. We were doing virtually that in 2009 and then physically in 2016. And then we come to our latest innovation, which is RSIM, which is transcends your multi-IMSI, whatever it might be, and goes into a whole new, I mean, we can have 120 MNOs on one SIM, for example, on this SIM. Not that we're going to put 120 MNOs on there, I'm just saying it's capable of it. So RSIM is a latest innovation to provide total autonomy and get away from that single point of failure. Because our problem with World SIM was we were doing it through roaming partners, and we always had a single point of failure. So if that SIM happened to be O2, for example, notice how I'm dancing around all the MNOs here, bring them all in, very inclusive. We would do it that way. So that's RSIM, that's where we are at the moment. Legislation is something you cannot do in a day. Legislation took us years to establish, and we're still doing it. So we're going to government, and we're saying we will advise government on critical network infrastructure. This took 2 years to do. We had somebody on a secondment from CSL into Whitehall. This is the UK government, Whitehall. Apologies for anybody who doesn't recognise what Whitehall is, if they're from a different region. And so we did all of this stuff. But look, again, I'm not going to stay on this slide. It's a bit boring, but the message is there. Network outages are increases, and they're more prevalent at certain times of the year. So that tells me that they can be managed. They are something. And I believe, and I'm not just saying this because I'm here at a Tele2 conference, Simon Buckley, who I've spoken to on numerous occasions, I'm not going to do the joke, Simon, it's okay. We're going to keep it clean. We're going to keep it very clean. But he's always been very kind in advising and making me look much smarter than I am on LinkedIn. I always ring him and say, Simon, should I do this? And he helps me out with these things. But look, I'm thinking about the joke. I'm having to move on. It's in my mind. It's cocked and loaded. It's not coming out. Okay, so Wi-Fi. Now, you might say, when you see a credit card terminal or a payment terminal, you might think, okay, so Wi-Fi, why are they using Wi-Fi? Why are they using SIMs? And to me, it's always been about that autonomy, getting in and out without touching anything else, opening ports, disturbing somebody else's infrastructure, being at the mercy of somebody else's tech team when you don't need to be. So I think growth equals autonomy. That's why I love SIM cards. I see the SIM card as almost like a Trojan horse, something within that you get directly to without touching all this stuff around the edges. So SIMs definitely have their place, and that's why we see such growth predicted. Primary or secondary. Why will it expand? Well, we know why. Security has access to Wi-Fi for 25 years. Why hasn't it been more widely used? Because Wi-Fi is not that reliable, believe it or not. We've tried it in security, and we've put it under test on the 60-second rule. Guess what? It doesn't work very well. And it's okay to be at home and have your Wi-Fi and go on the web and all the rest of it. So how have we promoted SIMs? Well, we've always pioneered SIMs. We've always seen that autonomy as the answer to getting in and out of the premises. And whatever application that might be, by the way. And it doesn't just have to be mobile to have a SIM benefit. I heard about sustainability, so I did my bit, and here it is. So I'm not going to mention the server farms in the Arctic Circle and the Inuits basically doing our air conditioning for us. I'm not going to say that, but I do believe, that was a joke, by the way. God, if you have to explain it. However, it's better than carbon footprints, as we know, with petrochemicals and all the rest of it. We know that. So what's the point? I wake up every day and think this. But IoT growth will be exponential. We know that. Justification for autonomy, I've said that. Increased reliability will drive more trust and value. That trust and value is so important. I do ring Simon and say, Simon, we haven't had an outage for 2 years. You're doing great. It's in the post, isn't it? And he goes, no, we've done this and that and the other. And that's why I do value Tele2. They do take network critical infrastructure seriously. And that's why we've got 1 million of your 7 million SIMs are with us at CSL. And yeah, put your money where your mouth is, right? And we cannot be let down. And so that's why we use Tele2. So critical connectivity, Wi-Fi out on the spectrum, and increased ARPU. A lot of people talk about ARPU. I've always believed that profit is better than revenue. You know, profit is sanity, revenue is vanity, and all that sort of jazz. But it's true, isn't it? You never hear of PPU. I know it doesn't sound as cool, but I think it's cool. Why not? Profit per unit. Right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and thank you for Tele2 for today. And I hope that some of the things I've said have resonated with your businesses. And I'll hand over to Cyril. To that guy.
Sacha.
Why doesn't he get on?
Sacha.
Sacha. Where's Sacha?
He's there.
Sacha, over to
Simon.
you.
Thank you very much, Simon.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Give a warm applause for Simon.
So you wouldn't want to follow that, would you? I do have a marketing department. It's very small. I'm not quite sure what we're going to see in the slides, but Cyril approached me probably about a month back also and sort of said, look, you've been doing this augmented reality stuff, and you've done IoT for many years, and on top of that, you know, how does that work with AI? So in my role as managing director of Westbase, we basically help our carrier partners, our MSP partners, and our system integrator partners to develop their customer experiences. So hopefully we're the quiet bit in the machine that helps them deliver to their customers. So hang on. My name's spelled with a C, but other than that. So this is a really expansive topic, and I can't hope to cover it all, so I haven't. So augmented reality. We think of augmented reality as Apple Vision Pro and all of this cool stuff that you walk around on your phone and you can see your sofa in your front room as you're thinking about buying it, and that helps with the customer experience. But how does it apply to businesses, and how does it help us actually deliver something better, hopefully for our customers and for our employees? And it was a heavily invested part of the technology ecosystem during COVID. So I'm not going to talk about augmented reality, I'm going to talk about assisted reality. So in COVID, we had to ask ourselves, what happens when you can't travel? What happens when you can't rely on those experts that you could send to a site previously? How do we address that challenge, and how do we continue to service our critical infrastructure? How do we continue to do business? Now, obviously, there was lots of people who did wonderful technology projects that never went anywhere, and I'm sure a lot of us were involved in those. But we saw some wonderful things happen in this period. So the IoT has been delivering information from that infrastructure for 20 years, maybe more. In Simon's case, PACnet was a very early technology, but we've started to rely on much better data to enable our workers to do a better job. So how does that lead into assisted reality? So simply put, we were selling headsets that went into the partner base. Those headsets became collaboration tools. They became for remote access and remote experts. I can't fly my engineer to the site to maintain the equipment. So how do we do that? And in the case of Michelin, who was a customer in this period through one of our carriers, they actually flew an expert around to all of their clients to evaluate their manufacturing progress. They started to send headsets, and an operative on the floor was wearing this headset, and they start to sort of evaluate their machinery from a distance. So that was COVID accelerated, and lots of people tried it, and some people started to adopt it. And this one was about a loss prevention company. They had to install in 25,000 sites. They upskilled their partner base for those installations using workflows that were delivered via assisted reality. They simply put on a headset. They had access to those workflows. They had learning capabilities from those workflows. And most importantly, if they encountered something that they'd not seen before, they could bring an expert in. So that was a great use case, and it was a real one. I'm sorry about the animations, guys. I don't know how many times I have to press the button. A major pharma company, again, pharma is all about quality. It's all about being able to trust the process as they go through that quality, and being able to upskill their team to be job ready faster was the reason that they started to embrace this technology. So that's great, assisted reality. But Cyril said, can you talk about assisted reality, the IoT, and AI? I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna try and figure out how to bring those together and give you a bit of a tri-play here. So AR and the IoT. So simply put, if the worker can see in real time the assets that they're working on and what those assets have been doing, they've almost always been sent to a site to either carry out maintenance because it's routine. We must visit that site once a year and we must carry out our inspections, or because something is beginning to fail. And what's really important, and something we've been selling in the IoT industry for many years, is predictive maintenance. Okay, but what does predictive maintenance mean? It means carrying the right component to the right location at the right time to get that first time fix. So oil and gas is probably the best example of a critical environment where safety is key, where uptime is key. And a study in the oil and gas sector suggests that they, on average, have 27 days of unplanned downtime every year. When we talk about life critical, and obviously Simon did talk about life critical and how the IoT can help with e-health, etc. But in oil and gas, process accidents are accounting for 50% of the time in downtime. That's when they hurt their people. That's when their people are most at risk. The big thing for what's driving a lot of this adoption is 38 million in lost production. So this was the early adopter sector, and this was starting to happen before the COVID acceleration. And this was the first place that we found really good adoption. RigQuip was a very specific customer story. 70% reduction in errors, 25% reduction in service time, and 10% increase in customer satisfaction. Being honest, I don't know where they got the customer satisfaction one from. I'm not sure how you measure that in this particular case. Their car kept going. So how did it expand, and what did that mean? So, you know, how do we start to bring the story together? So Volkswagen Audi Group was one that we're really proud of, actually. So they started to evaluate this technology during COVID. They did 5 sites as a proof of concept. Their vehicles are getting more complex. Their skills are actually disappearing. And what I mean by that is less people are going into that trade. So time to being able to upskill those people. Do they have a job for life anymore? You know, many years ago, most apprentices went into a job for life and they were there forever. So how do we guarantee quality on these complex environments? And how do we bring that remote expert in to get that information to the technician in the right time, stop the travel, and be able to service the customer better? So in this particular case, this was just 5 sites in the proof of concept. They reduced their carbon footprint by 2.5 tons. They had a 93% improvement in repair efficiency. And over the rollout, which was just over 1,000 devices, 3 million cost reduction per year. So this is all great. This is still assisted reality and IoT. So the telemetry-enabled car has turned around and said, I need a service, and this is what's wrong with me. We've now got the technician with that information ready to go, and we've got the ability for the technician to access remote collaboration. So AI and AR. Okay, so everybody knows about AI. Everybody's almost certainly bought some NVIDIA stock by now, and everybody's almost certainly an Inception partner or something similar, or you're beginning to play with graphics accelerated compute and what's available to you all. And the reality is we can simply have access to incredible compute power for very little money. And we can do that by the hour. We can do that, you know, by actually employing things on our own infrastructure. But what does it mean? What do we do with all this data? And this is where AI, AR, and the IoT start to come together. So AI and AR. So in manufacturing processes and maintenance processes. So I've chosen the aeronautical environment because, again, it's a life-critical environment. Deviations in panels, rivets that aren't correctly put into the device, into the aircraft, can cause significant problems. So you're actually able now for a worker to be going along and doing his job, her job, and having computer vision passively working on the device, picking up deviations that may have occurred in the manufacturing process or may have occurred in the field. That artificial intelligence is also able to passively look at the situational awareness of an environment that you're in. You know, is the fire extinguisher in the right place? What would happen if there's a fire here? Somebody's moved the fire extinguisher. A worker's wearing the correct PPE, their protection equipment. All of these things can happen passively with the ability of microphones, cameras, and location. And GPS location is a big part of this. Lone workers can now do something that previously you sent 2 people to. That's another use case that Tele2 and others in the IoT industry have been servicing for many years, but we're able to add cameras, we're able to add noise, we're able to do that in real time. And these are uninvasive devices that allow people to continue to work with their hands. So, okay, how does it work all together as a tri-plate technology? So I'm going to roll back to the Volkswagen one, because this is something that's actually happening right now, and we're starting to roll out to Bentley and some other automotive manufacturers at the same time. And what happens in this environment is, okay, so we've now got telemetry-enabled vehicles. They're saying, I'm not happy. This is what I believe is wrong with me. We now take them into the service station, and the technician is using assisted reality to look at that, follow their workflow, and work through the maintenance issues. They're able to identify those maintenance issues and increase the efficiency of getting it back to the customer, because they can ring up the maintenance department and look at it and say, can you see this play in this component? Great, I can see that. Okay, we understand that's a warranty claim. So that's all great. But now we're pushing that data back to the cloud. When I say the cloud, everybody says the cloud, right? But we're pushing it back to be able to analyze it. So in the case of Volkswagen Audi Group, what they're now able to do is they're able to look at the telemetry-enabled component, what the technician had to do, feed that back and analyze that en masse. So if you've got 1,000 vehicles demonstrating the same problem, they're able to predictively turn around and say, okay, we may have a defect in manufacturing. We could have made better design decisions when we were designing that component, when we were designing that car. So that's one example of how all 3 technologies come together, or all 3 sectors come together to create a complete picture for a customer. Obviously, the adjacent benefits of making sure your workers are safe, that they're only traveling when they're required to travel, and that you're able to pick up situational awareness is really the most important part for companies today. Of course, sustainability, I know you're going to talk a lot about over the panel, etc. It really helps if you're not putting people on planes to analyze equipment that they can do remotely. So that's been a big driver in this as well. So I've tried to keep it really brief, and I've also tried to give you real-world examples rather than talk in depth about AI. It's the top topic that everyone wants to discuss at the moment. I think the big thing for me is what it really drives is efficiency. Because if we look at all 3 technologies, IoT, we're efficiently able to predict whether something is about to fail or whether something's performing to spec. Assisted reality, we're efficiently able to get the engineer to do the right job first time by auditing the quality, recording that quality, making sure that they are doing the right thing, making sure that we can address the skills gap. And most important, AI is then providing the analytics en masse for us to close that loop and be able to come back to, did we make a good design choice? So empowering that to startups, not just huge enterprises, is a really interesting, evolving kind of product development cycle, which is much shorter than what we've been used to previously. I haven't touched on digital twins. I haven't touched on a number of other parts of the ecosystem, because I thought this one was far more relevant to the IoT and to the great work that these guys at Tele2 are doing today. So I hope it's been useful. And if it hasn't, I completely accept that. Thank you.
right, thanks very much, Sacha. Well, I'll start with a small story. The thing is that around 4 months ago, we were internally discussing with Judy and Honor what shall we bring to our audience here in UK. And apparently at that time we already knew that Simon is going to speak. And we knew that Simon is very good with speaking about mission critical connectivity, but also absolutely obsessed about the graphs he is showing all around. Same goes with Sacha, with AI and AR, obviously hot topics. But then we thought that we also want to present something which is not only related to us, the Tele2 IoT, but also the greater Tele2 group. And this is something which we are very, very proud of. It's our position in sustainability. And then we started just thinking, what is the best case scenario? What is the absolute dream scenario for us to bring to our British audience? And then we thought, okay, we have a crazy idea. How about we contact somebody in Financial Times and ask them to moderate the panel? I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. Well, but dreaming is also not forbidden. And then it was just a twist of fate, and we've managed actually to connect with Marie. And we were probably the first external email she received at her job, because she started on Monday, and already on Monday afternoon we were sending her email saying, Marie, we would so much appreciate if you can come and moderate this panel with us, together with not only us, but also our dear customers. So without any further ado, I will ask you to give a warm welcome to Marie from Financial Times, who will moderate our next panel.
Oh, whose phone is this? Oh, yeah. I've been wondering that for about 10 minutes. Really distracting. Great. Well, thanks for that introduction, Anton. Really, really kind words there. And I did start more than I was thinking when you were talking there, it sounded like I only started this Monday, but been in the role, you know, a sum total about 2 months, so a bit more. But anyway, I'm Marie Kemplay. I'm the Deputy Editor of Sustainable Views, which is the Financial Times' specialist publication for professionals working in sustainability policy and regulation within the business arena. And I have the real pleasure of moderating this panel discussion this evening with the title of Accelerating Sustainability Through Tech. But I think really all we're talking about here this evening is how to view sustainability as a business opportunity rather than a cost or a risk to be managed, which I think is the way a lot of people regard it at the moment. And of course, we're having this discussion in the midst of an election here in the UK, and there's been quite a lot of debate, I think, already about that topic. You know, is net zero a cost or is it an opportunity? And but to be honest, I think regardless of the outcome of the election, sustainability really is high on the agenda, and it's something that all businesses can't really ignore. But we have some fantastic speakers who are going to join me in a second from various leading Swedish businesses that have done a lot of good work on sustainability. So I'm actually not going to do most of the talking. I really want them to share their experiences, to be honest. So yeah, without further ado, I'd like to invite the rest of the panelists to come up and join me here at the front. And Anton will be coming back as well. So please, yeah. Yeah, anywhere. Oh gosh, lots of excitement. So I'll go right to left. So, you know, I'm going to ask each of our panelists to just give a brief intro before we get into the kind of meat of the discussion. So, Johan, please, quick intro.
Yeah, I'm Johan Gustafsson, and I'm the Executive Vice President of Communications and Sustainability at Tele2 Group.
Fantastic. And moving along the line?
Johanna, Giorgi, Chief Sustainability Officer of AdSecure and also President of the TechSverige Sustainability Council.
Fantastic.
So Christy, Pearson, Director of Market Development at Voi. For those of you who don't know Voi is a micromobility operator, so the Lime bikes that you see everywhere outside, we're one of their competitors.
And there are actually lots of Lime bikes just over the road there, so very good product placement there. And Anton, last but not least.
Yes, and Anton Savic, Head of Commercial, Tele2 IoT.
Fantastic. Well, what a great panel. I do have some cards here and some questions, but also I'm hoping we can kind of just riff a bit and see where we get to with this. But I will start with one of the scheduled questions. So, you know, we're here to talk about sustainability and business, and it's not always front of mind for businesses, let's be honest. People like me are spending every single day covering this stuff, but I know the rest of you have got other things to be doing. But how do you measure the success of the sustainability efforts that you are making? And maybe, Johanna, we can start with you.
Well, it's on my mind every day. It depends sort of. I think it comes down to how you define sustainability to start with for your company. For example, if I would say for AdSecure, we've said that it's about creating a smarter company. So it's about our own operations, it's about the smarter solutions, how we design our solutions, where we choose to put those solutions in terms of data storage and so on. And even more importantly, what we can do with the solutions. So we have this credo where we say we want to create a smarter and safer world. So we come from the connectivity, secure connectivity area. And I think the realization that, yeah, the connected society is growing, it needs to grow, it has a huge potential in transforming society, but it needs to be based on secure communication. And I think that's really sort of, so when you say about measuring performance, measuring success, it depends on where you look at. Are you looking at the impact that you have on the outside world, what we can do with our solutions, or is it rather about creating a smarter company, which could then come down to employee satisfaction, health, or direct emissions. Yeah. So it's really sort of, I think that's one of the main challenges for business when it comes to sustainability is to frame it. And to say, like you say, emissions, well, it really depends on where you're looking at. Is it about what you can do with your solutions, or is it about how to optimize your own operations? So that's how we try to do it. So yeah, when we say emissions, if it's about smarter company, it's about our own direct emissions. If it's about smarter solutions, it's about the energy use in data storage centers. If it's about emissions in the world at the clients, it's about what we can help clients achieve in terms of saving fuels or saving energy and so on.
Okay, really broad applications then from what you're saying. Anton, I can see you're nodding your head quite a lot. Do you want to add anything?
Well, yes, quite a lot actually. I mean, from the KPI perspective purely, I think that here we are just compliant to whatever Johan tells us to do. So Tele2 has a very, very clear basically KPIs which are measuring the success in sustainability, and as a division of Tele2, our role there is to comply. Then another thing, of course, is that we want to make sure that the solution which are growing with us are sustainable, and that is why exposing our customers like today is one of those things. And for instance, with Voi, we have a very interesting story, because when we just started our cooperation, it was just a relatively small startup with a couple of scooters which we were testing in our garage at the Tele2 office in Kista. But we had to think sustainable because we had to be ready for something nobody was ready for. And what happened is that in 4 months from December, when we had done the first steps and the first tests, Voi has dropped 100,000 scooters on the streets of Europe. And that means that those things, when decided from the technical perspective, have to be designed with the sustainability in mind. So I guess that those two things are really important, but then, of course, everything which has to do with sustainability, we try to communicate, and we try to give a lot of exposure to our customers who are also taking it as seriously as Voi and Secure for that matter.
Mm. I just want to jump back as well to what you were saying, Johanna, about that defining point, because, you know, we've jumped in actually to this panel discussion talking about sustainability, but you're so right that, you know, you have to think about, well, what does that actually mean? Because often people are thinking it means carbon emissions, it means climate, but it's a much broader set of things, right? I mean, you talked about the efforts you went to define it. Talk us through, how do you do that? What's the kind of starting point, you know? What's the process? And I'm going to ask the other panelists as well, because I'm interested in how that applied in their businesses too.
I think the discussion I had with the management team and our CEO was really like, what is it that we can do? What is it that has the greatest impact? And it's our solutions. So, but that being said, I think when it comes to sustainability today, and I think for many companies, you heard a lot about the EU regulations coming up, which is a lot about reporting. What's more important about those regulations, what they ask the companies to do before jumping into measuring and finding data for all the KPIs and so on, is to ask themselves, what is material to you? They ask you to do a proper IRO analysis. What are your impacts, your risk and opportunities? And that is something that you used to do. That's what you do in a company. But they're broadening the scope, saying like, it's not only about what's impacting you as a company, what's the impact that you have on the outer world. And I think that's the key when we move on. And that's also what should then be defined, because what the regulation says is that if it's not important, if it's not material, you don't need to report on it. So it really comes back to understanding yourself. It's sort of in the position in the world, where are you at? And that's what's key to you. So if you say, for us, it's the workforce is the absolute number one to attract talent. That's one thing. We say also about, we had Simon talking about trust. That's also a key word for us when we say trust in our solutions, because we're digital. If you cannot create trust in our solutions, we cannot deliver on the potential that our solutions hold. That means that our cybersecurity is absolutely key for us, and that's where we try to find the metrics, and that's what we want to report on and to show progress, because that's then key for us as a business.
Yeah, no, I think you made two really crucial points there. So yeah, number one, that external impact point is a new one, as you say. It's not just about it's the impact you're having externally. It's not about thinking about what you're just doing internally and what it means for you. And the materiality points, I think you're right, there's this perception that there is a lot of regulation. I'm not trying to pretend there isn't. There is a lot. But that materiality point, as you say, is really crucial because, you don't need to talk about things that actually aren't relevant to your business. But I'm keen to bring in other people. So Christy, within Voi, how did you define and think about what sustainability meant for your business?
Yeah, so very similar approach, but the good thing about taking 100,000 vehicles and dumping them on the streets is that you get a lot of feedback. So it was actually pretty easy to know what's material. And of course, one of the biggest things is around actually how are you using the city space. So because of the nature of our business, you have that interaction in terms of how are you affecting the world around you every single day. We are quite big in Norway, and for quite a long time there was two issues that Norway's talked about. It was oil and it was e-scooters. And it really was a situation where you're just constantly faced with that feedback. And now we've sort of dealt with that, and we have a better way of working together with cities across those core issues. But I think it's one of the benefits of our business. We've always been quite confronted with what those material issues are.
I think that's really interesting because what you're saying is, that feedback, I guess, can be challenging sometimes, but actually not being afraid of it and actually, this is an opportunity. We can hear directly what the problems are and you can resolve them, right? Rather than being afraid of those kind of, that information. But Johan, I'll ask you as well. So from a Tele2 perspective.
Yeah, so we have a somewhat similar approach. And I mean, it's interesting what you said with getting feedback from placing 100,000 scooters on the streets. I get that you did get that, but sometimes it can actually be enough with just sending an email. So what we have done, and what we're doing every third year is that we try to really engage our stakeholders. Mainly our customers and employees, our investors, partners, suppliers, etc. And we simply ask them, what is important for you? From a Tele2 sustainability perspective, what do you think is most important? And what surprised me quite a bit was that we did send out these emails. There were no incentives whatsoever to answer these. And I mean, all of you know that you get quite a few marketing emails that you don't really bother about. But more than 6,000 people answered this survey in our last attempt, which at least surprised me quite a bit. And that gives us a very good view of at least what the external world expects from us. That doesn't necessarily mean that is what we think is the most important thing, but they are fairly aligned, I would say.
That's really interesting. At least then you have something to react to, as you say. You don't necessarily need to take all of that and think, okay, perfect, we'll just do what all these 6,000 people say. That would be impossible, but yeah. I'm going to move back to regulation because, we've mentioned that there has been a lot of regulation coming out of the EU, and also, we were chatting before the panel about member state level and it can be quite a challenge to meet all these different requirements from different governments in different countries. But Johanna, I'm interested in your business. How have you approached this? Have you tried to look at what the regulation's saying and okay, we'll match this, or actually no, we're trying to, we're prioritizing what's important to us and then thinking about the regulation, if you see what I mean, after that, yeah.
Well, one important thing is that the regulations are under development. What's happening is that many are comparing this to the aim is to put sustainability data on the same level as financial data. Now, financial reporting has been around for quite some time, and I think anyone who's been sort of involved in financial reporting knows there's a lot of, you do it like this, you do it like that. It's not like a proper science in that sense. And I think what we're seeing now is that this is being developed for companies. So ESG reporting, I would prefer calling it ESG reporting because that's really what it is about. So you will have the financial reporting, environmental reporting, social reporting, and the governance reporting. And to me, that is the key to reporting going forward. and these are under development. We at Secure are owned by a private equity firm. Financial actors had their regulations got into place in 2020. Obviously, we as a portfolio company were asked very quickly from our owners, can you please provide this data? So we've been trained for quite some time. Because then it's also the taxonomy that EU is launching, which is about, okay, how to define what is a sustainable activity. And then now it's coming this sort of the sustainability reporting, which is more about the operations. So they are not really aligned in time. They're not really aligned in not always even in the metrics. So I think you just take a deep breath, and then you just, you try and you do, and you go through by error, trial and error, really. And I think that's also a thing. I think the EU is quite aware of that. So even if I've seen a few headlines about putting, I think it's in France that the directors can be put into jail because you see what can happen now if you fail to meet the regulation. What can happen? I think France has said jail. I think Germany has said fines, and Sweden hasn't said anything so far. So we'll see what will happen to us.
That was going to be my next question. What has Sweden said? But at the moment, no jail for you. You're okay. Christy or Johan, did you want to come in?
Well, I actually spoke to Sweden and asked what happens, and they were like, "Oh, we don't know yet." So yeah, probably not much.
Not much. Well, there you go. I should have come prepared to know what the UK says, but I do not. But we will go away and do some research afterwards. Did anyone else want to add anything on this point, or we can move on?
No, but just I mean, a lot of companies are a bit afraid, I would say, of CSRD and ESG regulation that I talked about. But I think that, I mean, it is a good regulation, because what will essentially happen is that for the first time ever, we will be able to compare ESG performance to an extent that we haven't been able to do before. I mean, there are certain companies that have been speaking about having marketing opportunities, marketing departments in the background. There are quite a few companies in the world that have been very, very good at doing sustainability reports, or glossy sustainability reports, that have made them look perhaps a bit more sustainable than they actually are. And then there are other companies that are acting in a more sustainable way, but don't have the resources to make a report.
Yeah.
Can I just,
no, please.
Yeah.
No.
Because I remember I went to the IoT Talks in Stockholm. Was it in December, January? I don't even remember. It was winter and it was dark, and that's most of the time in Sweden, really. Anyway, I remember I was sort of upset with myself because I got the questions like, okay, what's the main tip you could give to companies that want to engage then in sustainability? And I just realized afterwards that no, my best tip, I just forgot it. And
you're going to tell us now.
No, yeah, actually, I'm going to take the opportunity now. Yeah. But the thing is, like, when you get the regulations and you get the sort of the legal papers from the EU, they are so, you can't really read them and get any wiser. If you try, you just, they were written by lawyers probably. So it's, don't go there. I think copy with pride. So take a look around yourself. If you have a competitor or someone you're looking up to, some other business, copy and say like, okay, how did they apply this? Because that's really what's happening now. We're trying to get sort of realize or transform these sort of regulations into reality in somehow. So if you think that someone has done it in a good way, copy and go by that. So I mean, we're looking at Tele2, for example, when it comes to GHG reporting. That's emissions reporting. I don't know if that's... but it's something good to look at. So if you have someone who's leading the way, take a look there on how it can be done, because no one really knows. This is very much under development.
Yeah, I think that is actually a great tip. And, I think it kind of leads back to the point you were saying, there was a period of time where people were using this as a kind of marketing opportunity, but ultimately this should be something, it's not a competitive thing, really. It shouldn't be viewed in that way, in that sense. But it's almost as if this was prepared perfectly, because my next question was going to be about learning. We're in the UK. There's a perception, and I think a reality, that Swedish businesses have done well and are ahead when it comes to sustainability and how you approach it in what you're doing. So that really is my kind of question. What do you think the UK businesses could potentially learn from you guys, really, and what you're already doing? Anton, do you want to come in?
Yeah, there are a couple of things. Well, I believe that in general in Sweden the consumers are very conscious about the sustainability efforts, and they live in the sustainable way, I must say. So I think that's very much in the DNA, and that is why some of the things are just becoming wildly popular or very easily accepted. From one side here, I was, by the way, Marie, I need to learn from you because I was the one not asking you the question in the panel back in November and stuff. But yes, coming back to the regulation stuff, another thing which is definitely something everybody can learn is, of course, the interaction with municipalities. I must say that today we were in sustainability and mobility conference called MOVE, and we saw that there were quite a lot of representatives of the local UK municipalities. I think, Christy, you can tell us a little bit more about your interactions with them. But from my perspective, especially knowing that in Tele2 B2B we have quite a big chunk of public sector, almost like 80% of the municipalities, they're actually quite open-minded to experiment the things. And that is why very often what happens is that some of the first use cases or experiments are happening in Sweden. And one of them which I would like to highlight is that last year we were able actually to launch the first 5G autonomous ferry in the Lake Mälaren, which is in between the islands and Stockholm. And it's not only just a commercial launch where it's a nice PR people eating the cake and doing a few photos. No, I think it's like operational all the time ever since. And it's not just an operational gimmick. It is something which is now fully integrated into the Stockholm public transportation ecosystem. Now, are they going to develop it that fast, and are we going to see 70 of those ferries next year? Probably not. But in terms of the experiments, trying it out and making it happen, they are very, very open-minded. And I think that that kind of a go-do or go-get mentality is something which could be brought here.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think your point exactly. Having an idea that having an open mind and approaching other people with the idea that they will hopefully have an open mind as well, not being afraid to experiment. Christy, did you want to add anything? What can UK businesses learn from Voi or other, Swedish businesses that you've worked with? Do you think on sustainability?
I think, one of the benefits of Sweden is just the energy mix in terms of it's 40% hydro, it's 30% nuclear. So we don't have to have that conversation, whereas I'm from Australia and we're still stuck on this sort of coal, should we have coal or not conversation. And then it makes all of the subsequent conversations on sustainability quite difficult, because when you want to talk about electric cars, it's like, well, they're powered by coal, so it doesn't really matter. So you're sort of stuck in this loop. So I think that's one of the reasons that Sweden can have these conversations, because they're not stuck on that sort of base issue. And one of the things that I think Sweden's led on is always actually setting quite ambitious targets. So we're one of the first countries to have a carbon tax. I think it was 1991 or something, and we had that conversation in Australia in 2010 and then abolished it. And they've just always been sort of thinking about what target can they set. They have currently, I'm in transport, and I think they have a target which is a 70% reduction in transport emissions by 2030 based on 2010 levels, and it's one of the most ambitious targets in the world. We're starting to fall a bit behind, I must say, actually. We're not sort of maintaining our lead, which is a shame, but I think that's one of the key learnings for me, is really actually like set ambitious targets and then see what you can do afterwards.
Yeah, it is a good point. We can't get away from it. There's often a debate about, the responsibilities of businesses versus the responsibilities of policymakers, etc. But you do need that political input. I know we're in an election. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go there. Don't worry. But I think you can't get away from it. That wider context is important. So obviously we have to watch this space around what's going to happen here in the next few weeks. But Johanna, back to Sweden. So. Yeah, what can UK businesses learn from either what you and your company are doing, or more broadly, do you think?
Oh God, this is a tricky question, isn't it? We were just talking beforehand, like, what is it with sustainability in Sweden? I think there's been a sort of a transition in Sweden. There has been a close collaboration between companies. You see companies as part of the developing society. We had a few big companies, IKEA, H&M, they were early on in doing sustainability, creating specific departments on that. So they were sort of, leading the way. Again, others were seeing them, so copying with pride as well. So I think that's where it started. But I think, again, back to what actually now the regulation is saying, go back and do your homework. Think about what is it that really has an impact on our company. And it's not only like, and then sort of widen, take that and think, okay, what will it mean if the world gets warmer? Extreme weather, what will that mean for me and my business? Is that a risk? Is it an opportunity? For us at Security, it's both. What will it mean if we have a new pandemic and we have interrupted supply chains? What would that mean? That is also sustainability. So it's really about doing the sort of the risk analysis as a basis. So, and that's home turf for most of you. It's just like widening this perspective a bit, and maybe also extending the perspective, the time frame.
That's a really important point. Johan, is there anything you'd like to add on this?
I would really like to say something super smart here. But I think ultimately, I mean, for me, to make it very simple, ultimately it comes down to prioritization. I mean, I think sustainability will only be a burden as long as it's not part of the business strategy, because as soon as it is, you will have the resources to deal with the challenges and issues, and you will find the opportunities that comes with it. But as long as it's just something on the side, the regulatory requirements and stakeholder pressure and other things, those things will for sure be a burden. But when it's integrated into the business strategy, you equip the business in a completely different way and are much better equipped to deal with those challenges and catch the opportunities.
I thought that was pretty smart, so, you know, I think you did okay. I'm going to change tack slightly. You know, we're obviously here to talk about technology, so let's put those two things together. Let's put the sustainability and the technology together. And I think we've already been talking about this a little bit, but more explicitly, you know, how can technology help in this area? You know, what are some of the specific suggestions or use case examples that you've you know, implemented within your own organizations? So does anyone want to jump in? Yeah, Anton?
Yeah, I can start. And our kind of position on this one is very simple. We believe that we are enabling companies who take sustainability very serious. And we can say that the alternative cost of not using VOI would be probably less sustainable than whatever our friends are offering there. So essentially, this is kind of one of the use cases, and then the more we will support the new technology to evolve, and the more new use cases we will have on our streets as passengers and everything, or whatever data we would be able to collect, the better for everyone. So that's kind of as simple as that for us.
Well, I would say tech has two superpowers, and it's to optimize operations. We use tech to optimize things. That's what we heard a lot about today. You know, not going somewhere, or rather stay, you know, behind and then optimizing that way, and transforming. And so to do things in a totally different way. And I think that's basically what it comes down to, because the world today, business as usual, is not really an option anymore. We need to do things differently. And in sustainability, you quite, well, my view at least, specifically when I worked with more on like macro level on sustainable growth and so on, you sort of ended up in these discussions. It was less or more. If you want to be sustainable, it has to be less of something. We have to do things less, to drive less, travel less, do things less. But I think, you know, the key is rather to do things differently, and that is tech is the enabler for that. Obviously, tech comes with a few things as a, you know, as a backpack as well. You know, there are a few risks and a few challenges as well with tech. But yeah, we cannot solve the issues or the challenges the world is facing without tech. The World Economic Forum, they did an analysis on the Sustainable Development Goals that the UN established, and I think they found that 70% of the goals are enabled by tech solutions. 33% of those solutions were IoT solutions. So tech is key. Absolutely.
Yeah. Christy, anything to add?
I mean, in the very, very early days of VOI, they didn't have IoTs on them, and the vehicles got lost. So it's a pretty key part of just the fundamental part of the business, which was to hold on to the vehicles, because it's not very sustainable if they are just used for one trip and then thrown away. So that was a shift, but then in terms of the entire service and how you control vehicles in a city, it really is all about how are they connected. So we have geofencing, so that they're not in certain areas that a city doesn't want them to be in. You control the parking to make sure that they're not taking up the sidewalk. All of these things is enabled specifically by IoT. I mean, it's really the core of the business and how it can be sustainable in the first place. It's a scooter, but the point of it is that there's an IoT stuck on it.
I'm going to get, unless you wanted to add anything, I'm going to get quite nerdy now. You can spot the person in the room who doesn't really know much about these technologies. So I am literally going to read this one off the card. So we have seen a lot of technological advances in areas such as 5G and LPWA, like LTE-M. Sorry, everyone. Literally, you can tell I'm not. How should that be said? Anyone?
LTM.
LTM, thank you. And how do these contribute to sustainable efforts? So, and what are the drawbacks? So, Anton, you know.
That sounds like a question to me.
Yeah.
No, of course, like as the general trend is that the devices consume more data and the devices become smaller. Those two are like a little bit counterintuitive, right? But that's exactly the truth. That's the Moore's law, which has been driving the technology advancements lately and stuff. So from the 5G perspective and stuff, we will see an advancement of more data-hungry devices. And it's not only because more devices are able to collect the data. If, like, for instance, voice scooters might have an opportunity to collect not only the position data, but also maybe put some sensors in regards to air quality or something like this. And that could be installed not only there, but also to the EV chargers or to anything in the city environment. So as it collects more data point, it gives us as a society more opportunity to analyze the data and make good data-driven decisions on it. Now, when it comes to the other technologies which you mentioned, like the low-power wide area networks or the LTM, we are sorting out another sustainable challenge with that as telecommunication company, and that has to do with the devices and their battery life. So obviously we want to make sure that there is no necessity to swap those devices every now and then, and those technologies are a little bit more energy efficient, ensuring that those devices will be, you know, needing less maintenance per se. So we are looking forward for that, and of course with 5G advancements and the advancements of autonomous vehicle computer vision and stuff, yes, there will be more pressure on our telecom networks, but you know what? We're kind of looking forward for that as well.
Great, no, thank you. I think we have time for a couple of questions if anybody would like to ask one to the panel. No? Shy audience? No? Anyone?
Yeah, first.
Okay, well then just quickly, in that case, let's look to the future. You know, we've been talking a lot around current applications and how your business's approaches to sustainability have evolved over years. What's next? You know, what are either the kind of next challenges or the next opportunities? What's really front of mind for all of you? Johan, I'll start with you.
I mean, Tele2 as a company has a very ambitious sustainability agenda, and I mean we're super flattered by being, you know, getting all these rewards and the recognition we get, and we will continue. We have very ambitious goals, you know, many years ahead, etc. And we will, of course, work very, very hard to reach them. But what probably excites me the most is what, you know, several of you mentioned also, the enablement effect that we have. Like, we have, you know, multiple examples of where we become or at least part of the enablement for our customers or new disruptors to completely transform or change an industry. And I kind of like to see Tele2 as an infrastructure for new ideas. So, I mean, the ideas doesn't necessarily have to come from us, or they most likely won't come from us in most cases. But being part of making them come to life is very, very exciting. And I think, I mean, Anton, you would know this probably better than me, but we get all of these examples all the time, new examples of how current customers or completely new customers, startups, whatever, are completely changing their business model or disrupting an industry or changing a complete industry thanks to different types of connectivity solutions that makes the business more sustainable and their business model more appealing.
Great. And next, same question to you, Johanna. What's next for you and for AdSecure?
Well, as with most companies, much of my time at the time being is to make sure that we are compliant with new regulations. And I think there was a question you said, like there was a discussion in the UK, isn't sustainability a lot about, you know, just regulation, it's a cost for companies and so on. Well, that's where the focus is right now, and I think it's basically, if you take a step back, it's a good thing, because it will mean that when you speak about sustainability, you will have the same trust as with financial data. You would not say, like, we don't really care if the financial data is correct or not. So I'm looking forward to the day when my CFO understands that this is his responsibility. So I'm going to dump the whole reporting on him. So I'm putting up the structure now, and then I'm just looking eagerly at him and say, do you have a business control that can take over this for me? And I would love to go more into the business development part, definitely, because that's where the true impact lies.
Yeah, no, it sounds very exciting. So fingers crossed for you. You get to that day. Christy, how about you? What's next for Voi?
So on the micromobility front, as we said in the beginning, it was all about controlling e-scooters because they were just everywhere on the streets. But now we've sort of overcome that, and we have regulated markets. They're very controlled. As I said, you have geofencing, you have parking controlled by geofencing, and it actually is the transport industry that is leading on that. It's one of the few forms of transport that's controlled speed. All of the vehicles, the e-bikes and the e-scooters that you see, they're capped at 20 or 25 kilometres. Cars aren't, and they can do a lot more damage because they're a lot heavier. And so I think what we're seeing is a shift actually towards, okay, maybe our approach to transport should actually change. And we're seeing some of this. Of course, we're in the UK, where the 15-minute city concept, how somehow transformed into a conspiracy theory. But in some cities, we're having some additional conversations about how actually can we shift to the next phase of transport and start thinking about what do we actually want our cities to look like. So that's what I'm excited for.
Yeah, great. Anton, any final thoughts?
Yes, I'm actually excited about technology, as many people here. There are a lot of technology geeks working in our company, and our customers also qualify like that. And I'm mostly excited about the customer experience, which actually will new technology bring. Because, there are different ways to switch to sustainability, but some of them are more fun than the others. Such as, instead of cab, taking a Voi somewhere like in the middle of the night in the beautiful streets of London. Or maybe encouraging your drivers to drive in a more considerate way by making some kind of a special benefits depending on their behavioral data and acceleration and all this type of things.
We have a competition at Secure.
Yeah.
Like a driver competition.
Exactly. Or, for example, I don't know, we had a discussion with our charging company, which is enabling then the electric vehicle charging. Maybe we should stream football on those, because we have the screens and stuff, why not? So this is kind of going into so many different and unexpected directions. Maybe we will have drones deliver beer for our conference like in a couple of years. And all of this seemed like voodoo and impossible just a couple of years ago, but now it's all the reality. So I'm just very much looking forward to where it will bring and how we would be able to enable sustainability in more of those fun ways. But on a more serious note, and here I want to come back to things which Simon said, look, the connectivity is not just an enabler, it's becoming a very, very critical thing. And we said maybe sometimes it's business critical, sometimes it's mission critical, but maybe in future it will also become a sustainability critical, because if we are not working and the devices are not working, then they're also not able to enable something so important for sustainability. So with great power comes a great responsibility, but we are more than ready for that and very excited about the future.
Right. Well, thank you to all four of you for your thoughts there. Some really interesting ideas. So I hope you all will join me in thanking the panel for their thoughts there. Thank you. So I believe that's the end of the, well, how do I say, the speaking parts of this. But, and on the topic of delivering beer, I think now this is the plan, right? Where you can go have another drink, yeah.
Yes, Marie, absolutely perfect transition. Thank you very much. So, as Cyril mentioned today at the very, very beginning, IoT Talks is not only about the talks here on the stage, it's very much about the mingling. So I think that we need to enjoy this beautiful sunset here in London, go grab some drinks and nibbles and everything, and make sure that you create the new connections from today. I want to thank again our great panelists and speakers from today, and everybody of you coming, and let's keep in touch. See you soon. Thank you very much.
Good fun. I think that means that.